On the 6th of May 1901, the Duke and Duchess of York arrived at St Kilda Pier after more than 12,000 miles and 2 months sailing to open Australia's first federal parliament at the Royal Exhibition Building. Here, the Duke and Duchess are escorted across St Kilda Pier after landing. This is the earliest known surviving footage filmed in St Kilda on that day. At the time, the well-known lower esplanade of St Kilda was in the early phases of colonial development and barely recognisable to visitors and residents today. The 1910s saw a boom in St Kilda's foreshore entertainment, with the grand opening of Luna Park in 1912 by 3 Americans, the Phillips brothers. The now historical theme park was known for the first roller coaster built in the Southern Hemisphere, the Scenic Railway. It remains one of few surviving functional roller coasters from the early 20th century, and the only remaining example of a brakeman-operated carriage in the world. A year later, the Phillips brothers went on to construct a dance hall next to Luna Park, called the Palais de Danse. Envisaged as a dance hall, the onset of World War I saw it converted into a cinema that seated 4,000 patrons who enjoyed silent films, accompanied by a 12-piece orchestra. But for some 3,000 St Kilda men, these newly constructed foreshore entertainment venues would have to wait, as the First World War took hold and summoned them for duty. In 1924, the St Kilda War Memorial Hall opened on Acland Street to honour Australian soldiers that served in World War I. A year later, in 1925, a devastating fire breaks out, completely destroying the St Kilda Baths. The Palais de Danse cinema was such a success that the Phillips brothers decided to expand. The original building was dismantled and re-erected next door. The Palais Pictures was constructed in its place, designed by City of Canberra architect Walter Burley Griffin and his wife Marion. Days before it was due to finish construction, a devastating fire broke out in the stage area, completely destroying it. The Phillips brothers commissioned another architect, Henry White, to construct a much larger Palais Pictures theatre with a seating capacity of 3,000. Making it the largest cinema in Australia. In 1929, it became the first cinema in Melbourne to screen talkies. In 1929, the Wall Street crash ushered in the Great Depression. In the 1930s, the Australian economy collapsed, with 32% of men unemployed. Despite this, the new council rebuilt the St Kilda Baths in 1931 as a conceptual enclosed sea bath. The Astor Theatre officially opened in 1936 on Chapel Street. It remains the last single-screen cinema of its kind in Melbourne, and one of a few single-screen movie theatres from the 30s still in continuous operation in the world. (1940 to 1950). War calls again. St Kilda Town Hall becomes a bomb shelter and air raids are practised in schools, while many Australian men pack their bags for Europe. Many who were fortunate to survive Nazi concentration camps found themselves displaced in post-war Europe. Amongst the destinations offered to those seeking to immigrate was the great southern land of Australia. For some of those, they found themselves on the shores of St Kilda. The 50s saw a significant change in the demographics of St Kilda. Many artists took advantage of cheap, affordable housing in the area, including Sydney Nolan, who found inspiration from the surrounding culture and landscape. Post-war immigration drove a boom in cafe culture. Holocaust survivors Avram and Masha Zelenikov established Cafe Scheherazade on Acland Street, named after an Arabian Nights heroine. Known for homemade Jewish cuisine, it offered St Kilda's newly adopted Jewish community sanctuary and a little slice of home. Over the next 40 years, it hosted many iconic celebrities and politicians, and would eventually be immortalised by author Arnold Zabel in a book and play of the same name. The cafe closed in 1999, when the Zelenikovs retired. The Olympics was held in Melbourne in 1956, with many of the water sports being staged in Albert Park Lake and Port Phillip Bay. In 1966, St Kilda Football Club defeated Collingwood by a single point to win their first ever premiership in 68 seasons since the league first began. St Kilda Junction started to face significant safety issues from increased road traffic, trams and pedestrians competing dangerously for safe passage. A proposed redevelopment met with resistance. Shops and houses in the area were deemed too valuable, and much-needed public housing had also been earmarked for demolition. With congestion and public safety continuing to be a problem, the Victorian government pushed through with their redevelopment plans. Some 150 houses, 42 shops and 52 businesses were demolished to create a safer junction for all. As the redevelopment concluded in 1968, both the Palais de Danse and Stardust Lounge were razed to the ground by fire. The landscape of St Kilda had forever changed.